A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn, every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea, reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. And it is starting to get cold. Once I start sitting under these ring lights for a little bit longer, I should hopefully start warming up. I probably will have about half an hour, maybe 40 minutes more before I have to start shutting down the cameras, because I should start seeing start hearing people moving around, because it's 1 a.m. This is nighttime is my best period of time for how I feel, but I do have to kind of keep an ear out on people moving around, because once I start hearing movement, I need to scurry away and, not be out here recording when people are starting to get up. Anyway, this is the umpteenth book review that I am recording tonight. And sorry about that random break. I accidentally kicked the camera. Didn't want to leave that footage in because I didn't want to make you guys feel seasick essentially. So back to normal recording. Okay. So where was I? Oh, this is the final book that I have to review for 2024. And I talked about this multiple times through December. And this is the Agatha Christie Biography by Janet Morgan. And I really enjoyed this book. I mentioned multiple things about it throughout Christie's Missing Readathon. Just so many things. I did end up picking a few more books to read because of this book. One of which I talked about in December, which was the Mystery of the Yellow Room, which is written by the man who wrote The Phantom of the Opera, and that was an early locked room mystery. The other book was the Leavenworth case, which I also have recently finished. And Agatha Christie thought highly of both of those mysteries. So I ended up picking up those because of this book mentioning what she thought of those particular mysteries. There was so much in here. First of all, you have all the pictures of her, and she was actually quite pretty when she was younger. I want to find a picture of a young Christie. That's her as a girl. Well, actually, here's her when she's with Archie. You can't really see her features very well because she's in, the hat of the era. Here's another picture of her. But everything I've heard about her just sounds like she was just a nice person. Everyone described her as being a really good conversationalist, but they would mention that, people a lot of times thought that she was such a great conversationalist because she always got people to talk about themselves. She was a great listener, and she would just absorb information about people and be really she actually was truly interested in what they had to say about themselves. But I think because she absorbed things about people, it made her more perceptive in general, and it bled into her writing. Not because she was going oh, I met you, now person, you are a character in my book, but different aspects and observations she had of people would influence her writing. Now, I did find, having both read the Leavenworth case and the Mystery of the Yellow Room, I can see where both of those books definitely had their influences on her writing. Now, I think sometimes they were some of her stuff was a direct homage to those books, but I can see where these books formatively had their effect on her as an author. But I love that this book not only discussed the stuff about her being missing, but then it went into information about amnesia a little bit more in detail. And it went more into detail what she was dealing with at the time. I liked that it would cover, say, this is what was going on in her life now. This is the mystery she's working on at the time. And I liked the fact, I mentioned this in other videos, where the books that she wrote after her disappearance, so post Roger Ackroyd, were ones that she didn't like because they were pushed out, because she needed to push out books. And you can tell, if you're a Christie fan, you can tell what books they were. You can tell that The Blue Train wasn't her best, and The Big Four. Now, there are people who love those books, particularly The Big Four, people who like more of her spy type books. I thought it was something that was ill-fitting for a Poirot book. And there are a few of her books. That's where you could tell, like, for example, Man in the Brown Suit was earlier. I found that wasn't one of her bests either. But that's neither here nor there in regards to this section in her life around the time of her disappearance. But the disappearance, it talks about how that affected her for years in the future, besides the fact that, it always hurt when people would bring it up because it was such a bad period of her life. It was also something that she never wanted again, to be in the position where something would happen to her and then she wouldn't have something held back that she could publish ready to go if she needed to. And so after that point, she always had something in reserve to publish, just in case. Now, she never ended up having to use it to that extent. Yeah, I found this book to be very interesting. It goes through just her thought processes while she was writing, and just how different parts of her life influenced her during her writing. There was a huge focus on the period of time when she started doing plays, how much that really seemed to bring her out of herself. Even though she was naturally a bit more of a reserved or shy person, she would come alive when among theater people, when seeing her plays being worked on. That it was almost like she became someone else, that she became less self-conscious. And you can see where her self-consciousness as an author, if you read Agatha Christie's work and you run into Mrs. Oliver character, Agatha Christie puts a lot of herself into Mrs. Oliver. Things like, besides the fact that Mrs. Oliver also really loved apples, but things such as how Christie always had trouble, like, knowing what to say to people who complimented her work or who wanted to ask her about writing. She always felt really uncomfortable and didn't know what to do with that. She didn't like necessarily being the center of attention. But that part of Agatha Christie was not there when she was with the theater folk, which I found very interesting. And I wish that I could find, for a while, it looked like it was available on eBay, her play Akhenaten, which I believe that was written, I'm pretty sure it was written after she married Max. I want to say it was early in her marriage with Max, because I can't see her having written that before she started really being involved in the archaeological community. But it wasn't until I started reading about her biographies that I even knew that she wrote a play called Akhenaten. And I mean, I've always been interested in that particular historical figure. So yeah, this is, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I did not like so much the Lucy Worsley book, even though that did its job as a biography. I didn't feel like it was the best done book. I felt like there was too much author intrusion. It just didn't feel professional to me. This book, I didn't get nearly that same feel. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I believe I gave it a 5 stars. I would likely read it again. looking through it, I could almost pick it up and read it again now. But very good book. Once again, this is a biography by Janet Morgan, and this is the only biography that Christie's daughter approved. For that reason, this is the first biography where all the sources that knew Agatha opened up, the ones who actually respect her privacy. Once they realized that Agatha's daughter said, no, you can talk to this person, she's cool, then everyone was like, well, let me tell you about Agatha. Let me tell you. Whereas they clammed up with other biographers because Agatha wouldn't have wanted them to talk about her. Once her daughter said, it's okay, Janet got everything that no one else did. So this is just an amazing work. So even if you have not read Christie's works, although I highly recommend that as a ginormous Agatha Christie fan, have been for many, many years. But even if you are not a fan of the genre or of her work specifically, I still think that this biography is a good biography to read. It gives you a snapshot of what it was like to live in England during the World War I, World War II eras, and before that as well, because if you think about it, she was an adult. She was already working in the dispensary in World War I. So you're dealing with someone who lived through, as an adult, both wars, a woman who lived through both wars as an adult, of navigating different aspects of life, both as, not only as a woman, but as a wife, as later on a mother, as an author, dealing with things like the proceeds from your books being held back because of the war. Things of that nature, as well as dealing with the creative process and dealing with what it was like to live on these archaeological digs, which will be covered more in detail in Christie's own book, Come Tell Me How You Live, which she is written with her as in a memoir of being on one of Max's digs with him. But this book paints a picture, even outside of her books, of a woman who was the kind of person you really would enjoy spending time with, but who lived an interesting life in and of itself. Like, she's well worth reading about, even if murder mysteries of the kind that she wrote weren't necessarily your thing. I think that this could still be a work that you would enjoy and maybe even lead you to want to read some of her works. But yeah, that's it for this book. I can't say enough how much I recommend this. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again for the next video. God bless. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.